Hello, everybody in the UK Crime Book Club. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited. I've never had Jim Ody all to myself before. Kaz gets you every single time.
No, exactly.
So say hello and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Jim Ody, and I write predominantly psychological thrillers, but also horror and young adult books.
Do you want to show some books off to get us started?
Well, I could do. So my most recent one, and I'm going to do exactly what you said, which put it to your face first, and it's a shiny one, so obviously it's going to be harder to see.
Occasionally, I do.
So this is called Camp Death, and it's a young adult book in the vein of point horror, if anyone remembers those from the 90s, or books by Christopher Pike. So it's a new series we've got out, and Zoe is also releasing a book on the same day as this, and hers is called Ouija. So the two books come in at the same time, both on pre-order now, and I believe both. Well, my paperback's definitely available now, and I think Zoe's is available as well. So you can get your hands on those.
Excellent. Being attacked by a fruit fly. Must be the same one from yesterday. Looks like the author chat's sticking around. EJ Wood, Emma says hello. Hello.
Hi, Emma.
So Emma, also an author. Go and look up EJ Wood books and buy something.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So YA it's a new thing for you. You've not written YA before.
I have had one book that was YA, so that was called Noah's Lament, and that was about 2 years ago.
Right, I've missed that one.
Yeah, it's one of the 4 that is with my American publisher, so it doesn't get a lot of promotion at all. So those 4 pretty much do have sort of fallen off the planet. So hopefully in the future I'll get those back and I'll be able to promote them a little bit more. But yeah, so this is my second kind of young adult book, and it's completely different writing a young adult book as it is to an adult crime or horror book. It's a massive misconception that young adult books are, basically dumbed down adult books, because they're not at all.
I would say it's harder. I think you're very brave writing a YA book. It's not something I think I'd attempt. Certainly not anytime soon.
Yeah, and when we set about doing it, all of us kind of started reading some more young adult books again, and we read a good 2 or 3 to get under our belts to really make sure we got into it again, to understand what they're all about and how you write them, and the emphasis of the story and who they're aimed at. And because it's a whole different way of looking at it. It's very much about the relationships of young adults, so teenagers, what they're going through, their excitements of life, their fears, their aspirations, all those sort of things that you're caught between when you're a child to going into an adult. And it's all those emphasis that then are completely around your main character, the friends of the character, and then you have the story that surrounds that. But ultimately it's that kind of relationship and coming of age which is the main driver of the story, and then we've added the horror twist into it, just to give it something a little bit different.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a horror twist. There's definitely a horror twist. I'll tell you something I really liked about Camp Death. You as an author don't talk down to the teenager. You don't get it wrong. There's no bits where you go, oh, that's somebody who's forgetting what it's like to be a teenager as they write it. I just thought you got it spot on.
That's probably because I've never grown up, I think. It must be my Peter Pan mentality.
No comment. No comment whatsoever. Sidestepping that one. Oh, we've got some... hi, David. David Gilchrist says, hi, Jim and Samantha.
Hi, David.
Somebody's just washing up, then they'll be here, and I can't see who it is. So I'm going to have to be really rude and look at my phone for the names. People are tagging people. I was getting confused for a second then. People are tagging people to help them find the interview, which is really nice. So that was Kaz. She's just washing up and then she'll be here.
Brilliant.
So
Priorities.
I know you're saying because you've never grown up. Oh, hello, Michelle Kidd.
Hi, Michelle.
They're all coming
Yeah,
in.
it's excellent.
I know you're saying you've never grown up, but that's still a hard thing to do, to actually get it right as a teenager. Well, I think so anyway. And I've read lots and lots of YA books. And I do think it's really hard because even if it's just once or twice, there's often, not all the time, in excellent books, there's often a bit of a cringy bit where you think, you've got a bit too far there. That's a bit cringy. That's not what would happen. Being a mum of teenagers and an almost teenager.
Yeah. Well, that's.
Was there a lot of planning, a lot of research, or is it just from knowing your own kids and knowing other teenagers and the research you've done?
Yeah, I think it's having your own children. Also understanding, because I quite like watching movies that are kind of coming of age movies. So I think it's getting into that kind of mindset as well and understanding, how those plots are, how the characters interact, and the character, I always think it works slightly better if the main character has a slight vulnerable side to them, because I think that's how we all kind of see ourselves as we're growing up anyway, because everyone has their insecurities, and so I think it's important to show that within a main character within a young adult book, because I think sometimes it's there as something for teens to kind of try and they need to identify with the character, and they need to kind of know that they're not on their own as well, and all the kind of feelings and thoughts and what have you is purely natural. And so those were the kind of things I was trying to get to come across. I think one of the areas that sometimes is hard, because when you're doing a horror, you want it to be enough to it so it grips people, and there is almost a bit of gore without too much gore. And I think that's knowing when to pull back on the reins isn't an easy thing at all. I probably got lucky more than a few times, but I think it is from reading the books and understanding how they do it, and almost not copying, but understanding that, I guess, to try and do yourself.
So how long have you wanted to do a YA series? Because obviously you have Question Mark Press, so people can go and have a look at that as well. How long has this been kind of rattling around as an idea?
I've always wanted to do it ever since probably reading the Christopher Pike books. So, going back to the 90s, I guess those were the things which kind of drew me to it. Everything from, I guess, enjoying things like Secret Seven, Famous Five, and things that were series that as a child you'd collect the books, and it was all about the covers, and it was all about having them all out in a line. It was all about numbering them and wanting to collect them and sharing them. We've almost got away from that a little bit with the generation of ebooks and things, and that's completely nothing against that, because without ebooks and without Amazon, I wouldn't be here now. I would be sat here talking to you.
Absolutely.
So it has given me, that platform to be able to do that. But I think it's rattling around in the back of my mind. But how you're releasing books, I've had 2 publishers, just some of the third one now, plus self-publishing. This is the second time I've kind of come back to self-publishing. You're doing all these things, and it doesn't really lend itself to you to be able to do the series, so without Question Mark Press, I probably wouldn't have done it. But because we built up Question Mark Press, I had other like-minded people around me. I floated the idea, and a couple of the others liked that idea, and we had similar ideas on how we wanted the series to go, and everyone kind of followed on with my idea, and that helped me. Again, I think if I was doing it on my own and I was doing a series, I don't know whether people would be as interested in it. But if you can get other people involved, you've suddenly got a lot of enthusiasm with a lot of people who themselves have got family and friends and people that know them. And then, it kind of builds up a momentum. And, there's certainly some of that that's happening already, which is fantastic. And say I'd love to get them into secondary schools, into the libraries. I've already spoken to a few people already at getting some books out there. It's just really to, it's a dream to try and fulfill. It's to try and entertain people, and it's also to build up the next generation of people who, to get them involved, to get them away from their laptops and phones, even for a small period of time, to read a book that they perhaps might not have done so, without it. So that's the idea.
And I do have to touch on the thing of the numbers on the spines. I'm 39. I still got excited by that. The fact that there's something that you don't have to read them in order. You absolutely know you don't, because they're all by different authors.
Yeah.
And who knows, there may be some spin-offs, you may see characters again. But there's a running order to them, and I love that. That made me really giddy. It's like having sticker books, isn't it, as a teenager? You want to collect everything. I just thought it was a genius idea. And a really nice thing for a teenager, I think, to have on the shelf.
But that's it. And there was very much aesthetics about it. I spent a long time speaking to cover designers and things like that to try and what I wanted to do was, and it sounds bad, but I wanted to get a cheaper price, but for something which was decent, because I wanted to get a lot of people involved. And the last thing you want is to have a cover designer that's charging a lot of money, and then people are more focused on that rather than the series as a whole and being involved in it. And I didn't want that to be such a big issue. But I wanted the covers, I had an idea of them, and that was the very much 80s and 90s kind of almost painting picture kind of type. Yeah, exactly. So because those are so iconic, and that's what I wanted for the series. So for them to all be, slightly different, but to have the band along the top that says !horror, to have that skull with the question mark in it, to be a logo that, can represent, that's easily recognizable. So yeah, it's kind of to bring it together as a brand.
Boxes all ticked. It's working really well. I do really like it. In case you can't tell, Laura Hamilton says hi to us both.
Hello, Laura.
And she says, you don't want the main character to be so vulnerable that they're annoying. Currently enjoying this in a book. So that's another tricky thing, because you do want that vulnerability, as you said. Everyone's got their insecurities. I'm a babbling nervous wreck still at my age when I do this. I'm always terrified before we get going. And then I'm like a ball of energy for about an hour afterwards, driving everyone insane. So again, it's that balance, isn't it, of getting your main characters right, that good balance of, and the fact that teenagers are often depicted as one-dimensional when actually they have different moods for different things, and you might put them in the same situation twice and have a different version of them.
Yeah,
so
very much so.
It's a difficult balance.
And you don't want cliches as well. That's the worst part, I think. Yeah. To come in with characters that you've seen 100 times before. So to try and come with someone a bit different, and it'll be interesting for the series how it kind of pans out, because I'd love to say that we've got loads of things planned, but like with me and with my writing, everything is completely off the cuff. I just kind of find an idea and go with it and mold it to be somehow some sort of idea that people might actually like. That's the plan anyway. Luckily I've got some great beta readers, ARC readers, editor, who all can pull it round and say, no, what about this and what about that, and that kind of puts my meanderings into some sort of shape by the time it actually is published.
We've got some more comments. Emma says she can't wait for !horror and seeing the books in school libraries. I loved my school libraries. I spent a lot of time in them.
No, I did, definitely.
Do you think that's where your love of reading started, school library?
Possibly.
A library.
Yeah, I mean, my mum always read, and she was a librarian as well. And so we always had books around. And so I used to get taken to the local library. Certainly the schools, whether it was junior school or at the secondary school, I was always in the libraries, trying to look for, most adventurous or the horror books, or I was in the non-fiction section looking at all the ghost books and the supernatural books, and those are the ones that I was kind of getting out. So yeah, I've always had a massive interest in them, and that's always taken me through. So whereas I'm big into sport and playing sport, I used to always kind of muddy the boundaries of, I was massively into music, I was massively into sport, I was massively into, books. And so I used to be going around all the separate groups that you'd kind of, if you think of your teenage movies with all the different types of characters, I've always said that I see myself as having a part of all of those characters in me. Because I've always gone off into all the different areas and never kind of just stayed at one. So yeah, always had a love for books.
Which is why you write all of the various characters so well and their different interests.
Yeah, so I suppose you have to have an understanding of things, and there's obviously a lot of what you think and what you feel, and of course you put yourself in that situation, and ultimately each time you're saying, what would I do if I was in that situation? And then you might say, is that right for the character? Would the character do that? So you secondary ask that to then change it from there. But ultimately you do, because life's about experiences. And I always believe that having a lot of experiences and doing a lot of things will help you to write, because you know how you'd react or people around you reacting. So it all it all helps.
Absolutely. Kaz says she always likes that you have unusual characters. We know that Kaz has been a huge fan for a while, and it's taken me some time to catch up because she's had you for every interview, and you know what reading lists are like. We've got quite a few more comments as well, so I'm just going to have a look on my phone. They're not all coming up on there. How would you persuade a teenager to pick up a book instead of a phone, from Michelle Kidd? That feels like an unfair question, Michelle.
It's really hard. I mean, I try with my kids as well. I mean, luckily my middle child is reading Camp Death at the moment, and she was really excited about it because she's kind of gone through the journey. I've kind of kept her involved in it, of seeing how it's all coming together and how the covers have been, and how I did the pictures for inside the paperback. Because I thought with paperbacks, I don't just turn the ebook into a paperback. For me, it's a whole different concept itself. And I always feel, because paperbacks cost more than the ebook, that they need more effort and more time. So I spend a lot of time doing formatting and putting extra bits in, and pictures, and making them look a lot nicer, in my mind anyway. And I just feel readers deserve that if they're going to spend a little bit more on it. And so it's very hard, but I think these books are predominantly around 200 pages. I mean, I would say what we're going for is between about 160 pages to about 210, 220 pages. So they're fairly short, which I think helps with teenagers that are massively distracted here, there, and everywhere. And I think that's a bit of a key to it. We've done the horror edge because I think that gives the edge to people who wouldn't necessarily pick up a book normally. And, it gives it something that they can almost boast about and talk with each other about, and feel like they're a bit more of an adult, because they're, going on a bit more of a spooky journey that is perhaps seen as more adult than the normal books. So that's the idea, is to kind of grab those readers who maybe don't normally read, and then line them up for, your likes of, any kind of horror books or crime books or whatever going forward. I mean, one of the first adult books I read was Sean Hudson, Breeding Ground, and someone bought me the book for I think about my 10th or 11th birthday, and I started reading it, and it absolutely opened my eyes up, because it was that larger step from what I was used to reading, and everything was graphic, with everything from how people were dying in it, and because Breeding Ground was a follow-up to Sean Hudson's book Slugs, so it was all about these killer slugs basically. So it was this,
I can't imagine me.
so it was just bizarre, completely out there, but obviously it grabs the imagination of a youngster, and that really set me up. And I remember using words like fated, and just it expanded my vocabulary from reading books like that, and suddenly my horror stories that I was writing at school suddenly had a bit more of a boost to them, because you were trying to then emulate a higher kind of reading than you were used to. So that massively helped me as well. So I don't know whether that answers your question, Michelle, but failing that, just hide all the electronics and turn the Wi-Fi off. But I don't know whether that would work either.
We might end up with Lord of the Flies if we did that.
You are, yeah, exactly.
I feel like we should talk about all of the different hats that you wear.
Okay.
So, for anybody who doesn't know, give us a rundown of everything that you're actually up to.
Okay, so I'm in charge of Question Mark Press. So Question Mark Press, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a publisher that I put together that helps either new authors who have had problems with publishers in the past, or self-publishing authors that I guess want to feel part of a community. It's non-profit making, and this is always the thing that gets people, because they assume then that there's something untoward going on, and but it's basically free, other than the cover. Some people design their own covers. If not, then we've got a designer that does the cover, and so they will be paid, but that doesn't come via me, that goes directly to them. So we don't make a cut of anything. So ultimately the author self-publishes their book as usual through Amazon, but uses Question Mark Press, and has our advice, our community spirit of everyone helping. We have beta readers, ARC readers, we have editor, we have someone doing the book tours. What else do we have? Obviously we've got the social media sites. But I think the bottom line is, it's just, at the moment, I think it's 10 authors, and then we've got admin staff as well. I can't forget them, because they do a lot of work for us. So there's just a group of us, and it really feels like a family. So often self-publishing is a very lonely kind of job, because you're doing it on your own. You don't know, a lot of the time you don't know what you're doing and whether you're doing it well. All you've got is sales to go by, and that's not always a good barometer to say how good you are or how well things are going, because there are so many other factors to take into consideration. So we help each other, and don't get me wrong, I certainly don't know everything. So it's not me preaching to people, it's me helping facilitate everyone bringing their ideas together, and we all share ideas, because we've all come from different backgrounds, we've all got different ideas, we've all got different experiences, so we share them, and it's helped me as much as it's helped everyone else, because we've all seen the market and helped ourselves. So we've got that, and that's doing really well. Then obviously we've got Question Mark Horror, which is the young adult. Then I've got my self-published books. I've got 4 books with an American publisher, and I've just signed a 4-book deal with Spellbound Books as well, which is really good.
Congratulations.
So they're re-releasing 2 of my books. One of them, which is the popular Little Miss Evil, which is a horror book, and that's actually part of a trilogy. So I will be writing the 2 follow-up books to that. So that's really good. That's kind of a throwback.
I'm certain that was Kaz's favourite. Am I right?
Could be, yeah. There's a few that she likes, I know. Yeah. So that's a bit of a throwback slasher movie with a bit of kind of Saw thrown in, because there's some interesting bits in there, shall we say. And anyone who's not familiar with my books, although I don't set out to do it, they always have unexpected endings, and I honestly don't set out to have unexpected endings. And there's been actually, Little Miss Evil is a perfect example. I set out for it to be a novella, to just be a small little short book. It ended up being a full novel, and it had twists galore in it. And it's just how things go with my writing process. It just takes on a world of its own, and I just let it go for it.
Kaz has said Little Miss Evil was on her top 10 list last year. I knew it was.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
So, when will you write me a full urban fantasy style novel? I do not know who has asked that.
That'll be
I will have a
Kaz.
look.
Kaz has been she's been asking me that. And my answer is I really don't know, because I've got so many book ideas, and my novels at the moment, every time I write a novel, it seems to turn into a series, which is slightly unfortunate, because then it means that, I mean, at the moment I'm doing 4 to 5 books a year. So if I'm doing a series, so there's, the Little Miss Evil series, there's the Hudson Bell series, which the first book of that is A Lifetime Ago, and then there's the Crazy Season, which is a new series. So there's one book out on that. So already, if you're not careful, I'm just doing series without having time to do any of the kind of individuals. And with the young adult books, they kind of pop up, and I try and sneak another one of those in wherever I can. So there's just so much going on. It's crazy times, but good times.
Michelle Kidd says she's tried to persuade her daughter to pick up a book for the last 6 years. She won't even read Michelle's. Maybe she will like QMP horror. I think I've put my kids off books, if that helps at all. We have always read loads and loads when they were little. Always bedtime stories or afternoon stories or morning. Whenever I could get them to read anything, we did, if they're even slightly interested. I do think they're possibly secret readers, though. They just know I'll want to talk about it, so they don't tell me. And I can live with that. That's fine. As long as they're reading, don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they do the opposite, don't they, to what you tell them. So maybe you should tell them not to read, and then they might.
I just don't mention it anymore. You know where to find the books. We've got loads of bookshelves. There's books everywhere. Maybe I should hide them.
Yeah.
I'm going to hide the books. I'd need a second house to hide the books. It's not going to work. Michelle says, having released a book with QMP this week, congratulations, Michelle. She can personally say that the experience is fantastic. The support is second to none, and she can't praise it enough.
No,
you know all of this. You know how important you are to your community and to the rest of us. You're a very supportive person.
It's always good to know, because it's nice to help other authors, and I've always said I'm never in competition with anyone, because I'm such a massive reader myself. So I want great books out there. I want other people, I want to be able to share books with other people and share experiences. And I'm far from the finished article massively. I think I'm only maybe halfway to what I could be, and I'm still learning. I'm still picking up books. I'm looking at books that are doing well, put a new spin on my writing, and really try and take it to the next level. But it is what it is. But no, it's great that other people have done well with Question Mark Press as well, and are enjoying it, because let's face it, I always joke that I'm kind of like the reluctant boss at Question Mark Press, because I don't see myself as a boss at all. I just happen to take people on and kind of have the final say in things. But I'm a bit too laid back to be a boss. And that's why I have the likes of Zoe in admin, because she sends me messages and get for want of a better phrase, definitely. And I think sometimes that's what you need. It's an understanding of it, and I'm very much with everyone else, as opposed to calling the shots and telling people this and that. So no, it's great that everyone's enjoying it, and it's good. It's really busy. It's hard work sometimes. There's lots of aspects that are away from writing that I guess I didn't really consider, but it is what it is. And to have great feedback only helps push you on to really want to continue doing it and helping. So if there's, anyone else out there who wants, has written a book or is thinking of writing a book, even if you haven't finished your book and you want some advice or anything, we don't have contracts or anything. It is because I'm not making money out of it. I'm just helping people. So contact us if you've got, and it doesn't even have to be me, it could be any of the other authors. Everyone's always happy to share their experiences or anything. This is what it's all about. Let's just get some more books out there. Let's get some great new voices.
Love that. I'm sure it must be Kaz. She says she's the reluctant boss of the author chat stuff. But she says that I am really. I think we both bounce off each other pretty well. If one of us is having a great time of it, the other one knows they can kind of breathe a bit. And we take turns, we bounce off each other.
That's what you need,
though, isn't it? About, as well, isn't it?
Definitely.
She's taking some late night ranty phone calls off me. Good rants, never bad rants, but that energy I said I have after interviews.
And that's
calms me back down.
and that happens. We do that all the time. We're often messaging each other up until midnight and stuff. With someone will have an idea, and then that'll be bouncing back and forth, and then we're trying to calm it all down. But that's
find time to fit that next idea in.
Exactly.
I don't know how do you split your time?
With luck. So
how you do it.
Like I say, I get up at 5:30 in the morning, and I try. I get breakfast with the two youngest that will be up, and then I come into my study here, and I work. I write till 8 o'clock, and then I work from 8. And in my lunch hour, I just swap laptops over and do writing, and then I swap them back again, and then we'll eat at night and have some family time, and then everyone, I say, go off to bed. They go off to their rooms to look at little screens, and then I come in here, and then eventually I'll go to bed and read and turn the light off anywhere between sort of 12:30, kind of up to 1 o'clock time, and start all again. And that's the way it goes.
I wish I could function on so little sleep. I don't know how you do it.
I have my coffee.
Hear that my voice is getting grainy because I need more sleep than I'm having.
My coffee's strong. I have about 3 times what you should do, but I only have the odd cups of it, so I'm not guzzling all day.
One of the questions that has come up occasionally is when an author said that they have written books before, but they've ended up in a drawer. They've known that it was the first pancake, that it wasn't ready. Have you got any first pancakes?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I've got a book called Mojo Retribution, it's called. And it was the first book I ever completely finished. And that was in the 90s. I wrote that. I sent it off for some critique for, I think, to an agent, and she came back and gave me, obviously wasn't interested in it, but maybe some loads of, and I'm sure I found it a few years ago, and it just looked awful, the sample chapters that I sent, and the poor woman that had to go through it for a start. I mean, she probably needed therapy after that. Probably thought, what the heck is going on here? And the fact that she actually took time out to even mark it and put stuff in was brilliant. But I have actually talked about rewriting it, because the story as a whole isn't too bad. It's quite Dean Kuntz type. So, I may redo that. But yeah, I had that one written. Then I wrote my book, Just South of Heaven, a few years after that. Now that I re-released a few years ago, but that must have spent 16, 17 years sat there not doing anything, and that's a comedy crime, more of a caper really, and in fact the main character's name is Caper, so I just liked the name of it, and I thought that would, because it's a quirky, it's kind of anyone knows the likes of American authors Tim Dorsey or Carl Hyacin or anything like that. It's a very quirky crime. And yeah, so in the end, I rewrote that. So my official first book was Lost Connections, when that was actually my third book, if you like. And Lost Connections was about the fifth title that it had. It went through so many different titles. It started off just being a basic title to this really long, had nothing to do with the book, pretentious type of title that I fancied putting on there after some espressos in a coffee bar somewhere, that I was suddenly decided that I was short of growing a moustache and waxing it. But these are the sort of things I think you do when you're first becoming an author, because you see the whole concept of an author, which takes you away from what you're actually doing, which is writing a book to sell and put out there. So I've got lots of half-written stories as well, and books that I always say I'm going to go back to them, but I get so many more new ideas that I can't keep up with, that who knows. Until I'm actually writing full time, I don't know whether I'll actually have the time to do that.
Do you have a favourite of your book covers? They're all very different.
Funny enough, my daughter asked me that today. I do like A Lifetime Ago. And the second book, which is Come Back Home. I like those very much, and I do like The Crazy Season. So those, and I don't know whether there's part of that that's because I like the fact that they're the first books in a series as well, and I enjoy the series, so there might be part of that to it. But no, there's something about those that I really do like. But the aesthetics of covers is a huge thing for me, actually. I'm very, some people will be quite happy to just have anything on a cover. But for me, I understand the importance that people look past a book because of the cover. And, no matter what people say, they might not consciously be doing it, but there will be part of them which will, even if it's the other way around, which is you don't notice until you see a bad one and then you deliberately don't look at that. So, it might even be that way around, but a cover is still a cover which can attract you. So it's an interesting one.
And it's such a personal thing, aren't they?
No, very much. And I think it's very careful as an author to not want to put everything that's in your book on the cover. And, authors can very much get caught up in that. And they're like, well, no, it has to be exactly because that's in the book. But then when you look at some of the covers of, top selling authors, sometimes the cover isn't massively a representation of the book. And I don't think it needs to matter too much, as long as it gives the mood and a bit of an understanding. And it's a bit of a teaser, really, to say, look, this is what you might see. Come inside. So, that's more important, I think.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is accidentally give away the ending because of the cover, or the big twist because of the cover.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why it is hard sometimes, because some of my books have quite different endings to what you expect from the books. Now, if I put anything to do with that in the book, that'll be it'll be a massive giveaway.
Yeah.
But also there'll be the preconceived idea of what the book is going to be like. And, you just have, I think you have to be careful sometimes, because I know some readers are very particular about the genres that they read. And, so I've always been a huge fan of Dean Koontz, because he's been able to, go between the different genres very well. But not everyone can do that. It's a very hard and tough thing to do. And people are scared to do it as well. Let's not forget that. As an author, you have a fan base or a readership who they expect a certain type of book from you, and so you're almost scared to kind of be intrepid to go somewhere different. Whereas I've always liked to just have that kind of, I guess, dark psychological thriller, but to kind of swerve around between horror and sometimes even bordering on sci-fi in a in a strange kind of way. I always say that, as bizarre as some of my books are, you can't tell me that it couldn't happen. So, that's the one thing I'd say. They're not so wacky that you can't 100% say that they couldn't happen. So yeah, I'll leave it at
that. Pseudonyms. Did you consider having a separate one for your YA books?
no. Is honest? Is the honest answer. And I speak to a lot of authors about this, about pseudonyms and what have you, and people do it for different reasons, and most are completely valid, and I get it. I guess I've always wanted people to associate all of my different styles and books together. Now, whether they are different genres or not, maybe I don't know. Maybe it's a slightly egotistical thing that I want people to know how many books I've done and things like that. I don't know. It could be that, but. I mean, when I started writing Just South of Heaven, the main character is called Caper Juggins, and I was actually going to call myself that as just a strange oddity of it, but I never bothered in the end. But no, from there I've always thought, what's the point in changing from that's my name, and I'll stick to that through thick or thin.
How did the relationship with Spellbound
come out? Trying to think, really. I mean, I think it's probably because Zoe, who works with QMP, she works with Spellbound as well. So we've kind of had a bit of a relationship together because so Jane, who's Jane Badrock, who's one of our authors, she's signed for Spellbound as well. So we're beginning to have more of a relationship together, and whilst we're two completely different publishers, I think inevitably these kind of things happen because you are aware of other people and other things, and I think
absolutely
I wanted to be with the publisher as well at the same time, and and it was a hard thing to say to the other authors in Question Mark Press, actually, that yes, I've got books with you and I'm trying to help you promote your books, but actually some of my books are going to be promoted with are going to be with another publisher, and that's a hard decision as well. But I think it's all about communication.
But ultimately it helps all of you.
And that's the idea, because I've always said I keep the authors who are with us, I'm not expecting them to be with us for the whole time. I expect this to be a journey with them, and ultimately, Question Mark Press is a bus that we're taking them on a journey, and I'm going to drop them off at another publisher that is bigger and better, and they will then feel that they are worthy to be with a bigger publisher, because a lot of people have a lot of self-confidence issues, and the people who have joined us have been like that because other publishers are treating them badly, or they've been on their own beforehand and not really known which way to go. So we're just trying to get us all together to go, no, actually, we've got something here, we can do something, and then hopefully then they'll all be successful elsewhere. That's my ultimate gain. It's not holding on to people, and again, that's where the non-profit making comes in, because I'm not seeing them as a pound sign, I'm seeing them as a person that I can help develop. And let's not forget, it's them that are developing. It's them that have the the skill and the creativity. I'm not giving them that. I'm just helping them with their confidence to kind of do the best that they can do. Really, that's ultimately it.
So, what book are you writing at the moment? Do you only ever work on one at a time? I feel like you don't.
Usually I do. So I did start to do another young adult horror book. So there's one that I've started called My Friend Peter, which is an interesting one. So that will be finished and will be released in February.
Any crossover? There's a Peter in Camp Death.
No, this is a completely different character. But as some people will know, I do often have characters within all my books. So just as a quick side step,
spot that Little Miss Evil was mentioned in Camp Death, which I thought was a nice touch.
So in all my books, somewhere along the line, someone will be reading one of my books. 9 out of 10 times they will say it's awful, or that the author is an idiot. So that's usually what happens. Or the book's been found because it's been chucked out because it's so bad. So I often will poke fun at myself within that. I mean, that's one of the little things I like to do. So I've got a character called Jez, who's one of the main characters in A Lifetime Ago, and he appears in most of my other books, just because he's a quirky character and people seem to enjoy him. I enjoy writing him. So yeah, he appears in them. So yeah, My Friend Peter, that's going to be in the February release, next batch of books. And I'm also writing a book called Sweet Vigilante. Now this is an interesting one, about a woman who works in a city. She lives with an old guy who she kind of cares for, but at night she goes out and she kind of helps people. And I won't say too much more about that, but there's a few twists and turns and evil in the darkness, and it's a bit of a good versus evil, almost a comic book type of story. So I'm quite enjoying writing that one. And I'm also massively aware that my trilogy for Little Miss Evil that I've signed a contract for, the first one's coming out, re-releasing again soon, and so at some point I probably should get down to writing the other two books, the follow-ups. So I've got those as well, not to mention the next book in Hudson Bell series and the next book in the other series. Just completely Joel Baxter. So he's the Crazy Season.
Emma's just messaged to ask if she can drop the link for Camp Death in the comments, and I've said yes, please.
Yeah,
that would be really helpful. So excellent. Yeah, hopefully she'll pick that message up. Lovely. Which, if you don't mind, we do try to. There we go. That was fast. This one, Camp Death, is your next release and the start of the YA horror series, *horror. Thank you, Emma. That was fast.
See, that's good, isn't it? That's efficient.
You've got everyone well trained. I like it. So one of the things that we like to ask everybody who comes on, memorable moments as an author. Now, you've been doing this a few years now. You must have a few things that stick out.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few kind of milestones there. I mean, and I don't consider any of mine particularly massive, but I think, to yourself personally, there's always these different things. So 2015 was when I started. Releasing the first book and just getting the book in your hands is always one of the best things. Then a couple of years later, signing to a publisher for the first time. So the publisher was Zombie Cupcake, they were called. And I just thought they were fantastic because their logo was a cupcake with a zombie hand on it. And I just thought that was just the most brilliant thing. And so to have someone else recognize your work and want to release it is huge. So that was a big thing. And I think, even going with my publisher in America, and although things didn't necessarily turn out as I wanted to, for a while there, for the first year or so, things were really good. They, really backed me. They were putting me in for these little awards thingies, and I was getting these bizarre things which mean nothing over here, but in some state in America, it's probably quite good. So you win first place as international author, and when you're probably the only international author there, but you don't worry about that. 16 votes gets you a win, and that's great. So little things like that. And really, I guess, getting up to doing Press, which has it's one of those classic things of it's hard. There are times when I question why I do it, but it is very rewarding as well. Everyone knows I'm an author first, and like I say, I'm reluctant at being in charge of it. And but I like the concept of it, and I like what it's producing. I just sometimes wish there was someone else doing it, and I was just if I could have another me that could concentrate on that, and then I could just do that. That'd be great. So
I feel like you just still do something else for other people. I feel like you still wouldn't get extra writing time because you'd find another way to involve yourself in other things.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes there's just so much going on in the world, isn't there? And you sometimes you see loads of things and you think, oh, I could help there, I could do this. And no, it's an interesting thing. There's always options, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got comments scrolling at the side of me. Somebody has asked, how did you come up with the name Press?
I just like question marks. I've got a question mark on my elbow, and you can see that there. So, I've got various question marks all over. I've got another one on my finger there. I've always liked question marks because I think for me, people never know what to expect with me, because when I meet people, I'm really quiet and I don't really know how to interact very well. But because I've got a sense of humour, I will often come out with something with straight face, and people don't know whether I'm being serious or not. And I play football a lot, and I used to go to football teams, and I didn't really speak to anyone, so I used to be quiet in the corner. But I go out on the pitch and I start kicking people up in the air, and people used to be really wary of me. And not realizing that as soon as the game was over, I'd be shaking people's hands, and I wasn't getting involved in anything. But throughout my life, a lot of people have not really known how to take me. So I always think a question mark massively is like my symbol, really. So that's why I took it on, and I thought I thought it looked good as a symbol on on the spine of a book. So that's how it was born.
Well, it's instantly recognisable, so there's your marketing trick.
No, exactly.
Somebody has asked, what are you reading now?
Right.
All of a sudden, we've just got a scroll of loads of questions coming in.
I'm reading, the book I'm reading is by Evan Wright, and he was a journalist, and it's it's a non-fiction book, and it's all about his life and different aspects that he's done. So he worked with so he wrote for Hustler for a while, and it's just absolutely bizarre. Like, one chapter is him out with Motley Crue and all about them on their comeback tour for their Generation Swine time for the late 90s. And it's just all these bizarre situations that he puts himself into. So he's what's known as a gonzo journalist. So very much immerses himself in whatever story he's doing. And yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. I do normally read kind of a horror or crime and things like that, but I saw this actually at the weekend and bought it, and just thought, I can't just stick it in the bookcase. I'm going to jump straight into it. And yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. So yeah, that's what I'm reading at the moment. I can't remember what it's actually called. Hold on, I will tell you for a second. So I've got it written down here. But it's well worth checking out. His first book was Generation Kill, where he actually went out with the army in Iraq and came back with all the stories from there. It's called Hellenation. That's what it's called. So it's well worth checking out.
It's the kind of thing that I would pick up and read, definitely. So somebody has asked, this must be Jason Kelly. Do you write in silence, or do you have music playing in the background? He always asks that. And it always gets a good answer.
I write in silence because I get too distracted. So if I'm editing, I'll have music on, because throughout the day I will always have music on. Music is constant unless I'm trying to be creative, and then it has to be completely silent for me. So that's why I'm sat in a study which is off the house, and it's just away from everywhere else, because that's what I need. But that's completely against my normal life, which is I literally have headphones in all the time with music on.
Fair enough. And also, what authors have been an influence on your writing? So you've talked about quite a few already.
So Dean Koontz, definitely. Joe R. Lansdale, I'm a huge fan of his. I think the way that he can merge dark, kind of almost sad tales with witty humor as well, I think is amazing. So a couple of his best books are written, at the beginning of the 19th century, in kind of the deep South, where there is poverty, there's racism, sexism in it, everything like that, and the main character is immersed within that. And whilst often they have nothing and they've got their family trailing behind them and they're trying to find places to live, there's this witty humor that's almost a gallows humor about it, and it's just quite a nice sentimentality about the whole thing, whilst not shying away from the horrors of what was there. So the way he does that is brilliant. And also he has his crime series as well with Hapman, so that those guys, it's just, I think someone like that is definitely been a huge influence, because I've kind of looked at how he can do that.
Yeah. You said Deep South, and I spotted out the corner of my eye, I didn't realise it was still there. I move my books around a lot for different things to be. Anything that I've loved gets, at least one showing. And I've got Brian Cave's A Long Way From Home, which everybody knows, anyone who listens to me, so not my husband, that it was the favourite book of mine last year. Absolutely loved it, and it is set in the Deep South.
There you go, yeah.
And I didn't expect to feel about it the way that I do.
No, it's just, and even today in the world that we are now, we talk about all these things and the atrocities in the 18th century and the beginning of the 19th century, but actually now it's still rife. So it's not massively different down there, which is, it just strikes me as strange, but I guess we're all different, and it's trying to flick a bit of water at a huge flame, isn't it, to try and do that? But if not enough people flick water, then it would, the flames would never die down. So I'm massively for everyone trying to make the world a better place. It's as simple as that. I mean, I'm by far from a religious person, but I do believe in some of the concepts of being nice to each other and treating each other as as you want to be treated yourself. And it's just seemed normal to me, but it just surprises me, some people in life. But there you go.
And on that really lovely note, thank you very much for joining us, and show off your books again.
No worries.
We are out of time.
Okay, so Camp Death, which is coming out soon. And so that's The Crazy Season. So that's with Joel Baxter. That's book one. And then my last book that I actually did was, so this is my anthology of short stories. So 8 of them have been released in previous anthologies, a load of different ones, which didn't sell many at all. So for most people, this is the first time that they've read a lot of these stories, which is crazy, but good at the same time, with 4 brand new stories as well that I wrote this earlier in the year, because I thought I'd just add a couple more, why not? So I sat down and wrote a couple more with them.
Well, thank you very much to everybody that's joined us tonight and asked questions or just chuckled with us. Thank you to Emma for sharing the book.
Yeah, thank you, Emma.
We need to share it again at the end, don't we? So that it's the bottom comment, the easiest one to find. And thank you to you. What a lovely hour this has been. Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much yourself. It's always a pleasure, and you guys have supported me since the beginning, really. So as soon as UK Crime Book Club began, I pretty much joined, and Kaz and David have supported me right from the beginning. So a huge thanks to them and to you and to everyone and all the readers, obviously.
They are fantastic, and I actually get to meet Kaz in person next week.
Fantastic.
I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm very excited about it. He keeps joking, let's hope we get on as well in real life, but we talk that much on camera. I can't imagine anything. Oh no, I'm not going to jinx it. No. Move along. Nothing to see here. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. It's been so lovely to speak to you.
Thank you very much.